Hello, and welcome to this week's Story Behind the Stories for the week of August 14th, 2017. This is a weekly show that we do featuring the news and opinions from the Neepawa Banner and Neepawa Press. My name's Kate Jackman Atkinson, and I'm the editor of the Neepawa Banner, Neepawa Press, and I'm joined today, as we are most weeks, by Owen Devereux, who's our sports and news and all sorts of other things reporter.
That's right, Kate. A pleasure to be here as always.
That's good. Now, regular viewers of the show will notice that we are down a body.
Yep.
We usually have Ken Waddell, owner-publisher of the papers, who kind of leads the conversation, but he's tied up with meetings today for the Manitoba Community Newspapers Association. So hopefully there'll be some good news for our little industry coming out of that. It'll be a worthwhile trip for him.
Exactly. It's kind of interesting. You left a couple weeks ago. Ken left. I'm the only one that keeps showing up because I got nothing better to do.
You're our Rocco, but we couldn't do it without you.
Both you do actual work, and I'm just here. I'm just here to fill the seat.
Just keeping that seat warm. Yeah. So anyways, we don't have Ken, but we still have lots of great news, stories, and opinions, so we'll jump right into it.
That's right, Kate. It was a great visual week.
It was.
For the Banner and for the Press.
Yes, probably one of the best weeks, and that's kind of one of the great things about summer is that the stories might not be as meaty as they are throughout the year, but they're pretty cool to look at, and they're lots of fun. So let's, for something a little different this week, I think we've got some visuals.
It was very meaty. The front page of the Neepawa Press has a picture from Miracle Treat Day. Yeah. Huge event that went on. Yeah. It was hugely successful.
Very.
We had one of their employees take a picture there. Yeah. And you know how they do the...
Yeah, the blizzard thing. Yeah. And the great thing about Miracle Treat Day is the way that you can justify that you're getting blizzards, maybe more than one on that day, but you're doing it for the kids, and it's really, you really can't feel bad about that.
It was all for the kids. Just very quickly, I'll show you a small version of that, but more important than that was the amount of money that was brought in.
I have the paper with it on it.
Oh, yes.
So there you go. You can see this very cool picture of Ram Ignacio, who's one of the staff members at Dairy Queen, holding that blizzard upside down.
What was great about that, Kate, as well, is they brought in just over $11,500 from Miracle Treat Day from the sale of 2,107 DQ blizzards. Neepawa always seems to step up so well for these types of initiatives. It was great to see it happen again this year.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I know the town has always been really supportive. I think that we like the cause and we like the food as well.
And when you can get a cool treat on a hot day, that's all the better.
What, you gotta like that. You got some more pictures to show us. Going down the road a little bit to Gladstone.
That's right. Diane Warner is always out and about on the weekends, it seems like, and she's always getting these moments, these pictures from these types of events. This year, Bull Mania, you'll see it on the front page of this week's Neepawa Banner. There were several just very intriguing pictures. One we have right here, as you can see.
Yeah, lots of action in there.
Just
very cool.
Phenomenal to be able to catch the moment like that. Another one here that the office just loved.
Yeah.
Everybody said that's the winner.
Yeah.
And it was just so adorable.
Yeah, this one was pretty popular. So that's, you've got the bull riding, but you also have the mutton busting, where the animals are maybe not quite as angry or rank as the bulls are, but it makes for some pretty cute pictures and gives the kids a chance to get down in the ring.
Not as rank. Don't tell that to this young rider whose visual here is just very...
Yes, yeah. Be sure to check out it doesn't reproduce so well here, but be sure to check it out either online, mywestman.ca, or in a hard copy of the paper, and you can really see this young rider's face, and it's really something to take a peek at.
What was really a lot of fun during the process was trying to come up with a headline for this one. We had a few clever ones, but they can't be printed in family-oriented papers.
Yeah, I guess maybe we'll leave our viewers in suspense, so that we don't run afoul of any regulations that we're supposed to, comply with.
Do you think we can get away with the one, though?
I think we probably could.
This one, I forget whether it was from Diane Warner or from her husband, Marty, but I thought it was hhilarious. Everyone in the office just lost it when they came up with, "Oh sheep, oh sheep, oh sheep."
So there's the story behind the stories, what goes into picking our headline. Sometimes they get left on the cutting room floor, unfortunately.
And sometimes for good reason. But we really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, but we have fun, so.
Yeah. This one as well was from Barrow Racing. This one, Was a
Diane got that one
Diane
as
took
well.
this
Yeah.
one as well.
Yeah.
Of all the pictures that she got there, this one jumped out at me. It's visually intriguing, just the action that's going on in here. It doesn't hurt that there's a pretty cowgirl in it, but just from an aesthetic standpoint, it was a great picture.
It was a great picture. Yeah. Yeah. So, and we've got another one in there, right?
Well, it's hard for me to even come close to these because most of the time when I take pictures, I just hope my thumb isn't in the way.
Got that lens cap off, Owen?
After the second game, yes, I did take it off.
Yeah, there's only coverage of the later games in this week's paper.
As we had said last week, and we talked a little bit about the Senior AA Provincial Baseball Championships, which were taking place last weekend in Neepawa.
Big weekend for the town.
8 different teams participating, the best of Senior AA from all across the province. I took in as many games as I could. This was a very intriguing one. This was during the round robin. As you can see, the team in red, they are the Boissevain Centennials, who would turn out to be the eventual provincial champions, winning the championship against Morden in a really good final. This game, however, is, I believe they were taking on, this is Brandon they're facing in this game. It was actually the first game of the tournament, and just an opportunity. Hopefully the green screen isn't causing too much trouble. Otherwise, we got to ask why our baseball field has giant tulips or lilies on it.
No, they're tulips.
Yes.
They're the Canada 150 tulips.
Ah, the baseball volunteers went all out this year for the event.
I mean, I heard that there was a huge volunteer support and that they had the fields looking in just really top-notch condition. I didn't realize that they'd gone quite that far.
That's right. We're going to get into that a little bit later in the show, but just some of the visuals. If you want to see a version of it without tulips, check out the paper or go online to mywestman.ca.
Well, with that segue, that's probably going to lead us right into talking about the baseball tournament, isn't it, Owen?
That's right. That's right. It was a very, very busy week when it came to sports. Usually it seems like we're always talking about hockey.
I think this is the first week we're not going to talk about hockey, except for this conversation right here.
That's right. We got to keep that streak going. But baseball was the pinnacle of the sports calendar.
Yeah.
We had, as I said, the Senior AA Provincials. Big event. Neepawa should be very proud of hosting that event as they did. 8 different teams all over. Crowd numbers were fantastic.
Yeah.
Every game seemed to have bleachers full of people.
Seemed like people really, knew that this was a big deal and came out to watch. I know it seems like there are a lot of baseball fans in the community, people who follow, the Blue Jays and whatnot. So it's really nice to see that support has translated to, seeing players on the field who
That's
which
right.
is always really exciting.
These are the people in your community. You should come out and support them any chance you get. What was wonderful as well, I found, Kate, was sure it's easy to go to a game and watch a game. It's more difficult to step up and volunteer, be willing to put in your time just to sit and take tickets or to work at the beer vendors or at the barbecue there.
Or there was a lot of work that went into the grounds to make sure that the Ball Diamonds were really putting their best foot forward, and it sounded like it was a huge volunteer effort with big support from the community, which is always really nice to see.
What I found was interesting, though, is I spoke with a representative from Baseball Manitoba. They do events like this all over every year on every different level, and he was very impressed with the fact that Neepawa not only had volunteers, they had volunteers to spare. They had people on a waiting list.
Which is phenomenal.
Yep.
Yeah.
And overall, just from the standpoint of just how it ended up, the Neepawa Cubs, they had a good, solid effort. They ended up going 1-2 in the round robin. They didn't make it into the next round, but every game I saw, they really put in an effort, and the community supported them on that. If you want to find out a little bit more, check it out. We have the full story in the Neepawa Banner. We have a picture montage in the Neepawa Press.
Yeah, if you want to see some of those great photos Owen got on the field, be sure to check out the press, because that's where you'll find those pictures.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was more than just sports, though. A community like Neepawa has so many things going for it. This is something that I found very intriguing. Kate was able to chase it down and get some new information on a potential new business that might be coming soon.
Yeah, so this story actually kind of has been percolating since the beginning of the year. People from the area will probably have heard that there is a volunteer grassroots group that is working to lay the groundwork for a world-class soy processing facility to come to Manitoba. They're paying particular focus to Westman. So in last month, 3 communities have joined the Westman Opportunities Leadership Group, WOLG, board. So this is basically the steering committee that is putting together the package that will be presented to an existing player in the industry. So to be clear, this group is not actually going to build the facility. The facility will be built and operated by a company that has experience doing this. So they want to make sure that this is, it doesn't go bust, that it's, a legitimate, reliable investment that will benefit the community. So what they're doing is they're doing all the groundwork. So they're looking at what would demand be, what size plant should they build, what should the plant include. So it will be a crushing plant, but it could include some biodiesel manufacturing. What kind of technology should it include, and where it should be located. So they've kind of they want this to serve the Manitoba community. So anywhere in Manitoba would be good. They're focusing in particular on the Westman area because that's where the growth in soybean acres grown is, and that's also where the growth in hog and other livestock production is, because that's the primary use for the crushed soybean meal.
Now, I'm a layman on this, Kate. Actually, I could say that for many different topics, but specifically on this one. When it comes to the soybean processing facility, most people, the average citizen, thinks about, soy burgers, soy sauce, or a soy latte.
Yeah. So some of those are good, some of those we're not really that keen on.
Exactly, but this isn't gearing towards the human consumer, is it?
No, so the average person not in the agriculture industry would think of those. That's only really a small portion of what happens with the crushed soy. So because soy is so high in protein, it is a major source of livestock feed and predominantly hog feed. So that will be the base, the targeted market for this product.
So less chemicals going into our food eventually. Yes.
Yeah, and there are some industrial uses for soy I was reading as well, but predominantly livestock feed. So that's it's high in protein, so that's always good for helping animals gain weight and grow and do all those things that we want them to do.
You went through the numbers a little earlier today about just the significance, the size and the scope of this facility. So it really is remarkable.
It is. So right now, there are no crushing plants in Manitoba or eastern Saskatchewan. So everything that is grown in Manitoba and eastern Saskatchewan is exported to crushing plants in the United States, which puts Manitoba growers at a disadvantage because they have to pay to send, there's a cost disadvantage associated with transporting the soy to the plant. And on the flip side, the hog producers who purchase this feed, they face an added cost of getting it back. So so there's kind of a cost disadvantage associated with Manitoba, but we have seen a huge explosion in the number of acres grown for soy. So my understanding is that it's a crop with a good market, and recent developments have allowed it to be grown in Manitoba. It needs a long growing season. They've bred the plant such that it can now be grown here. So I have some numbers which are pretty interesting. So in Manitoba, 2.3 million acres were seeded to soy this year, which is 40.1% more than 2016. I believe that the growth for 2015 to 2016 was in about the 30% range. So we're seeing a rapid explosion in this. Each year it's just, record number of acres grown, record number of acres grown. I did also do a little bit of math this morning, and I feel like I should talk about it because I actually went through the effort of doing some algebra, so I don't want it to go to waste.
No.
So this is kind of rough with the numbers that I could find. Now, of course, they're not, the plant, they don't know for sure what size plant it will be, but they're looking at about a 500 ton a day plant. So this would translate to needing about 2.5 million acres of soy to feed the plant. So we're not quite there yet. Interestingly, at the end of 2016, 2016, I believe, I'm sorry, I can't quite find my note here. I believe it was the end of 2016, it is in the story. At the end of 2016, Manitoba Agriculture was forecasting that that within 5 years, Manitoba would be growing 3 million acres of soy.
Right.
So what actually happened was when farmers started seeding, we're actually at 2.3 million this year. So, I think that within Manitoba, there's definitely going to be the crop that can feed this plant, especially when you think if it's going to be located in Westman, they'll also be drawing from eastern Saskatchewan too.
It's going to be intriguing because there are several communities that are going after this right now. It's not just NADCO.
Yeah.
There's going to be a very heated competition to achieve
but
this.
The interesting thing is what the group has been really pushing. So I guess the story focuses on the fact that 3 communities have signed up to join the board of Westman Opportunities Leadership Group. Now, basically what these communities are doing is they're investing. They're paying $25,000. This gives them a seat at the table and a chance to be part of the discussions, part of the research, part of the business attraction. But the focus is that while each of these communities would like to have the plant in their community, and Nipawin is actually fairly well placed. Preliminary results, investigations, information show that you need about a 50 acre plot of land. You need to be serviced by rail and highway. You need water, a good source of water, natural gas, and hydro, and Nipawin kind of meets all of these criteria. But the idea is that if this plant is located anywhere in the province, it will have positive benefits for farmers throughout the province. So, this board is, concern number 1 is getting a plant here anywhere in the province. But then you have these communities, which includes NADCO, which has signed up, which includes the town of Nipawin, RM of Rosedale, Glenello Lansdowne, and Langford North Cypress Langford, as well as the town of Carberry has joined up this summer, and Binscarth Russell. They will be joining Brandon and Burden, which have already signed up, and they have got a pretty strong partnership with Brandon University, does Westman Opportunities Leadership Group. So we've kind of got a little bit of competing stuff in here, and that each of the communities would love for this plant, which they're anticipating will employ 40 to 80 people. Everyone would love to have it in their community, but you have the goal of the group is to attract a plant wherever it might be, but to get one. They're looking at being about 2 years off, having that package ready to present to a processor.
A developing story that definitely we're going to be following up on many a time.
Yeah, this is not the last that we've heard of this.
We're going to shift over, talk a little bit about some of the columns right now. You and Ken put in some interesting perspectives. Let's start off. Let's change it up a little bit. We usually do it with Ken's, but now we're going to change it up. We're going to start with my perspective. Kate, you talked about the wheels of justice and being a little slow.
Yeah, I did. So, we all hear that, if you've had any involvement in the courts, and, we do because we hear about charges being laid, and then we go, when is this going to go to court? And then we wait, and we wait, and we wait, and we wait, and then we wait some more. But anyways, two cases were appealed to the Supreme Court, and this happened about a year ago. It was last summer, and the Supreme Court ruled that if cases take too long, from the time the charges are laid to when there's a decision, that it violates the accused's charter rights. So they have said that 3 years is too long. They have said that if you have a more serious case, you can have 30 months. And for the less serious cases, they're saying that it has to be wrapped up with 18 months. So this has had a pretty big fallout because we're seeing cases get dismissed because they've taken too long, and some of them are pretty serious cases. We're also seeing, lawyers making appeals to have cases dismissed because they're taking too long. And then we've got provinces that are trying to deal with this problem. Manitoba has proposed a solution, which is to eliminate preliminary inquiries. It's had some pretty broad support from Chief Justices of the province, the Justice Minister. They've appealed to the federal government to run a 4-year pilot project on this. They haven't been approved yet, facing some opposition from defense lawyers in Manitoba and the Canadian Bar Association, which represents both Crown and defense lawyers. But it'll be interesting because I think that the real solution is probably to hire a lot more judges, invest a lot more in legal aid, hire some more Crown prosecutors. Maybe you need some more court space, but that's pretty expensive. And I think that it's kind of, I don't know whether this Manitoba solution will get approved, what will happen to it, but it is interesting to see a solution that is maybe more economical than the ideal solution. I'll be curious to see how it plays out.
I'm curious about your opinion on this, Kate. When it comes to something like this, what do you think the problem is? It is a case of, as you said, too few lawyers or judges. What seems to be the...
Do you know what? I don't know, and I suspect that it is a kind of a multifaceted problem. In the Supreme Court's decision, which was a majority decision, but it was not a unanimous decision, they said that there was a culture of complacency around, delays, and so that, I'm sure that is a factor that judges just aren't kind of, pushing through their,
Right.
I'm sure that, they're, acquiescing to demands for delays, and I'm sure that there probably is some of that going on. I'm sure that it's probably an issue of understaffing. I think that there's probably a lot of things going on there.
Interesting. It's interesting to see how each province is going to sort of go through it
Yeah,
as well.
and certainly there's going to have to be some solution because we're already seeing, I think there was about 800 cases between last June, July, and this February across the country where, defense lawyers had, requested to have, the charges stayed because it had taken too long. So I think that we all want to see justice carried out, and I think that we would rather see, I don't think that we want to see cases being dismissed because it's taken too long. I think that is not beneficial to anyone.
No, you're definitely right on that. Yes.
So I guess we can talk briefly on Ken's. He's not really here to talk about it himself, but he's basically talking this week about the fact that governments are elected when they change, usually on the basis of change, and there's the provincial government has taken a fair bit of flack lately for some of their changes.
Yes.
We've got change a lot going on in this sentence.
Yes.
So Ken's
Irony is ironic, isn't it?
It is. So Ken points out that that something has to change. We elected a new government on the basis of wanting change, and he thinks that some of the problems is with an issue of communications and not necessarily the actions being made, but that they're not doing a great job of telling us why they're doing it.
Conservatives, have always had that issue, it seems, not just provincially, but federally, that their messaging, getting, as you said, getting the message out there to the masses, that's not something that's their A game.
Yeah, no, it's certainly a challenge, and I'm sure that one we'll be talking about for a lot, at least a couple more years.
Because when you look at what they're doing, that changes to emergency rooms and all that, when you just hear it, that's awful.
It sounds pretty scary.
But when you delve in and you look, the money's not there.
Yeah.
The services are being hindered. It's tough choices have to be made.
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more about this. Segueing into sports, we do have a unique week this week in that we don't have hockey, but what else have we got going on? We have hockey adjacent.
We have, yes, we do, Kate. Hockey adjacent. That is the phrase of the week. Some work's going on at the Yellowhead Arena here in Neepawa. They've done some work in terms of putting in some new arena boards, some high-tech arena boards. These are mandated for National Hockey League, American Hockey League, top-tier leagues and organizations that have to have this. It's almost like safety boards. The old boards were so hard and rigid, you ran into them, you'd feel it the next day.
Yeah.
You're still going to feel it in these things, but they got a little more give, a little more sway to them. So that's going to help from a safety perspective.
That's a good upgrade. And this is part of kind of a multi-pronged upgrading process that the Yellowhead is undergoing, isn't it?
That is right. They did some work last year with the lighting. They're doing work this year with the boards. New centerized scoreboard. It's going to be an entirely different arena. You should come down there sometime during the winter and see some of these amazing changes.
That'll be exciting.
Yep. I'm going to segue a little out of that from the Yellowhead Arena over to the Yellowhead Hall.
Yeah.
Nipawin Nova's gymnastic team
Yeah.
is going to be moving into some new digs.
And that's pretty exciting because, I mean, my understanding is that they'd basically outgrown their existing facility, which was the gymnasium at NACI, right?
A combination of factors,
Yeah.
yes, Kate. Outgrown the facility, plus the scheduling with so many different things going on.
Yeah.
High school events,
Yeah.
the Filipino Basketball
Yeah.
League has become so hugely popular here. There's just only so many hours in the day, so they had to make this change. They're going to be moving in mid-September. It's going to be a 3-year deal. They're going to be holding their major tournaments in the Yellowhead as well. So
fantastic.
it should be very interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's nice to see organizations growing, and it's nice to see, some interesting uses of our existing facility spaces. It's always, I think that's what we want to see. We want to see something going on all the time, and this is pretty neat to see that.
That's definitely true. You're right. I'm going to talk a little bit. Actually, I'm going to segue very quickly over to Prairie Storm Athletics. We're running a little low on time, so we're just going to bullet point a few of these.
Sounds great.
They were part of the Legion Track and Field Nationals, which recently took place in Brandon. We had 5 participants from Nipawin. They did very well. Many of them hit their own personal bests. If you want to see some pictures of them, or to find out some of the details on how they did, you can find all that information in this week's edition of the Nipawin Banner or online at mywestman.ca.
We've got some really strong track athletes, don't we?
We do. It's
Yeah.
something we've really excelled at over the
Yeah.
last few years, and it's great to see the participation levels for what is considered a relatively small community
Yeah.
to be so strong.
Yeah, it's really fantastic.
Yep. I'm going to introduce this little one. Once again, we're running a little
Yeah.
short, so we're going to
Yeah.
very quickly.
Yeah,
Ken Waddell came up with a concrete solution to roads,
yeah.
literally and figuratively.
Nice play on words there. So Nipawin, like many other towns, is facing a bit of a challenge in that we have quite a few potholes in our roads.
Oh, yes.
They're hard to miss, though you may try. So Ken has found a bit of a solution that involves a local concrete plant that has extra concrete when they're done their jobs, and that this might be a good way to at least help fill some of those holes.
That's right. They're actually suggesting it, and one company is actually offering to give it to the town of Nipawin as an option.
Yeah. So, it's kind of a neat idea. You can read all the details in this week's press or online at mywestman.ca. And as always, it's nice to see some maybe, out-of-the-box thinking and solutions, because we certainly need them.
That's right. Ken really delves into this. He talks about other communities who are doing something similar. It's really interesting to see how the perspective from community to community changes when it comes to something like this. So it's a
sure
must
is.
read.
Yeah, sure is.
I think that's pretty much wrapping it up. We're coming up on the bottom of the hour right now. We're, depending on what time you're watching it, the top of the hour. We want to thank you very much for tuning into the story behind the stories. Now, don't forget, you can see this on NAC TV Thursdays at 7 p.m., Fridays at noon, or perhaps Saturday, 6:30 p.m., Tuesday at 7 p.m., and Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. Man, we're just monopolizing the schedule, aren't we?
We've really got the primetime lineup packed.
That's right.
If whatever is the current primetime hit is not really doing it for you, you can watch us on NAC TV. Or if you want to watch us at your own convenience, these videos are posted every Thursday on the Nipawin Banner's Facebook page, facebook.com/Nipawin Banner.
That's right. And once again, we want to thank you very much for taking a few minutes of your day to share it with us. I'm Owen Devereaux, here with Kate Jackman Atkinson, and of course, the here in spirit, Ken Waddell. Thank you very much.
See you next week.
That's all for now.